The story begins in the city of Beijing, China, where bus number 375 was the last ride of the day. The bus was supposed to make a short loop and then return to the station. Since it was the last bus, it was running late, around 11:30 p.m. to midnight. Usually for these late-night trips in China, there's an additional person who travels with the driver to organize the trips and make sure the tickets are valid, kind of like a conductor. On this particular night, the conductor was a woman. As the bus started its journey, 3 passengers boarded, a young single man and a couple riding together. The bus continued its route, and the weather was cold, with everyone quietly waiting to reach their destination and head home. Suddenly, the bus slammed on the brakes so hard that all the passengers were jolted forward, hitting the seats in front of them. The bus had stopped in the middle of the road because 2 strange figures were waving at the bus, signaling the driver to stop so they could board. The driver, frustrated by the sudden stop and the way the strangers were signaling him, didn't want to stop in the middle of the road. It was against the rules for the bus to stop anywhere other than at designated stations. Of course, everyone expected the driver to get angry, yell at them, or just drive off, but what happened was the opposite. The driver looked at them shocked with his mouth open as the 2 strangers boarded the bus, and suddenly there were 3 of them, not just 2 like the passengers had seen. As soon as they entered and the passengers saw them, they realized why the driver had looked so surprised. The 2 strange figures were carrying a third person with a stiff face, and they looked very strange and terrifying. The oddest part was that these 2 people were wearing traditional Chinese clothing, which no one wore at that time. The 3 of them continued standing silently in the bus without saying a word, and they walked to the last row where they sat down with the third person placed between them. All the other passengers in the bus were staring at them, terrified, especially the woman sitting in front of them, who kept trying to reassure them, indicating that there was nothing to fear. Minutes passed, and the married couple said they wanted to get off at the next stop. They exited, leaving behind the young man, the elderly woman, and the 3 strangers, in addition to the driver and the conductor. The strange part was that the elderly woman, who had been trying to reassure everyone that everything was fine, seemed increasingly uneasy. She kept glancing behind her, sensing that these people were not human. In her terror, she suddenly jumped up, grabbed the young man who was sitting alone, and started shouting, "Thief! Thief! You stole my wallet! You took my money! Give me my wallet, you thief!" The young man, stunned and confused, tried to defend himself, saying, "What do you mean, thief? I'm sitting right in front of you. How could I have stolen from you?" He was shocked by the accusation, but the elderly woman insisted that the driver take them to the police station, and she demanded that they file a report. The elderly woman insisted, "All right, stop here and I'll take him to the police station." The driver stopped the bus, and the elderly woman took the young man off the bus. After that, the bus continued its route as usual. As soon as the woman and the young man stepped off the bus, she grabbed him and started walking away. The young man, confused, said, "Didn't you just accuse me of stealing? Why are you leaving me now? What happened to your story?" The elderly woman turned to him and said, "Instead of thanking me for saving your life, you're questioning me. If you had continued that journey, your life would have ended immediately." She then explained that the 3 passengers who had been sitting behind her were not human beings but demons. She told him that if he had paid attention to their faces, he would have seen that their features were stiff and lifeless, as if they had no souls and no blood. She went on, "If you look closely, they were wearing long clothes that covered their legs. There was nothing visible from them except their faces. The only way they could have been caught was through their legs." The young man, still in disbelief, asked, "How did you know?" She replied, "I saw their legs the moment I sat down." They weren't human legs. The one they were supporting was the only human among them, but he was already gone. The young man listened to her, but he couldn't quite believe what she was saying. He thought she was just a crazy old woman rambling. However, he was shocked when he found out that the bus, number 375, never returned to the station. He checked with the station and they confirmed that the bus was missing and had not come back. The tragedy deepened when the bus station reported the bus as missing to the police. Imagine the shock when the elderly woman saw the announcement. She and the young man went to the police station to tell them what had happened that night. At first, the police didn't believe her. They thought she was just an old woman making up stories. She insisted, "I am sure those were not humans, they were demons or evil spirits." But once again, no one took her seriously. Before the case could be closed, a resident near an artificial lake reported that a bus had been found submerged in the lake. When the police arrived at the scene, they were shocked by the number of unanswered questions. The bus in question was indeed the missing number 375, but how did it end up here? This location where the bus was submerged was 100 to 120 kilometers away from its intended route. The most puzzling part was that at the end of a trip, the driver is usually in a hurry to drop off the few remaining passengers and get home. So how did the bus end up in the lake? The station confirmed that the bus had left with just enough fuel to return, so there was no reason it should have traveled another 100 or 120 kilometers. Could it have refueled at a gas station? After reviewing all surveillance footage, it became clear that the bus did not stop at any gas stations. Even more bizarre was the fact that the bus had entered the lake voluntarily. It hadn't crashed or veered off the road by accident. The police couldn't figure out how it ended up in the lake. As for the people on board, there were 3 bodies found inside the bus. The condition of the bodies was enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Their faces were frozen in expressions of terror, mouths wide open as if they had seen something that scared them to death. The authorities quickly ruled out drowning as the cause of death. The 3 victims died from shock, something they witnessed that caused their hearts to stop before they even reached the lake. There were no cuts, bruises, or any signs of injury. The autopsy confirmed there was no poisoning or any other obvious cause of death. However, one of the bodies was unidentified. No one knew who it was. The second body was the driver's, and the third was the woman who had been traveling with him, possibly the assistant. The strangest part was when the police checked the fuel tank and discovered human blood mixed with the gasoline. This confirmed that the passengers hadn't drowned, they had died before the bus even reached the lake. It appeared that something horrific happened to them, something that caused them to die in sheer terror. The police couldn't figure out what they had seen before they died or why the bus had ended up in that lake. The mystery deepened as they tried to understand who the passengers were and what had happened that night.